What's up? What's up? What's up? My mind, your money business folks, is me yet again with another video on something pertaining to money, right? So the stock market's not open. I'm not reading an article, but what I do like to do is read books. If I'm not reading a book, I listen to audiobooks or I listen to motivational speaking or speakers, and it motivates me. To me, when I read books, inspiring books or autobiography, it gives, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but like thoughts pop in my head, pictures pop in my head. I see myself doing the things that I'm reading. It inspires me. That's why reading is good. It helps with your imagination, right? We all have one. Either we're thinking good things or we're thinking bad things. If we're having hard times, most often than not, our thoughts are in a negative place. And most people get what they see themselves having. So if you only see bad things happening to you and for you, then that's the life that you're living. I, on the other hand, I'm more optimistic. Not even optimistic. I try to be more positive. It's hard being positive or thinking positive all the time because you're surrounded by so much negativity. If it's on the news, it's in the movies, people, right? So that's why I try to abstain from certain things. I'm by myself most of the time. So yeah, but either way, reading a book. So I ran across something in a book that is very good, people. And I think that's what I'm going to start doing sometimes, is sharing things that I'm reading with you guys, because you guys need motivation also. That's why I do this. I do this not only to motivate other people because I want other people to do well, but I do it also to motivate myself. It keeps me in line with what I set out to do, is to keep and maintain a positive mindset, take care of myself, help others, take care of my family. And doing this allows me to do so. It keeps me dollar cost averaging into the stock market. It keeps me living within my means, living below my means. It keeps me on budget. And me living below my means, I still live nicely. I still live a nice life. The beach is like 5 minutes that way. I walked there yesterday. I also, you can't see it, but I bought a paddleboard for the 4th time. But I took it out of the box, so I'm not taking it back, because I always said, spending $400 and $500 for a paddleboard is too much, even though I can afford it, right? And I took all the other ones back, but this one I kept. I took it out. My daughter told me to, and I blew it up. So here nor there. But again, you can live below your means and still live a very good life. Also, it's very important that you stay on top of your health. I do intermittent fasting now. I've been doing it. I'm trying to reset my body because my shoulder has been causing me problems for years now. And I kept working out. I would get treatments. I get acupuncture treatments now. And I decided to just pull back on the working out, maintain my eating while I am not actively working out. But I go for walks. So yeah. I mean, if your health is not, if you don't have good health, you can't, enjoy, living below your means, or having a lot of money invested, or owning a business. It sucks if you're sick all the time. You can't enjoy it. But either way, that's just another piece of the puzzle. Money, health, there's other things, relationships, love, but I'm focusing on the money. But either way, here nor there, because I've been talking and rambling on and not discussing what I came here to talk about, is what I read, is a story that I read in this book that I want to share with you guys, to show you what is possible with a plan and discipline, people, with a plan, a vision, and discipline to make sure that it happens. And not comparing yourselves to other people. To stay in your lane. Mind your money business. Mind your business. Stay in your lane. All right, so here it is. It says Ronald Read was born in rural Vermont. He was the first person in his family to graduate high school, made all the more impressive by the fact that he hitchhiked to campus each day. For those who knew Ronald Reed, there wasn't much else worth mentioning. His life was about as low key as they come. Reed fixed cars at a gas station for 25 years and swept floors at JCPenney's for 17 years. He bought a 2-bedroom house for $12,000 at age 38. Obviously, this was a long time ago, right? And lived there for the rest of his life. No, actually, you can buy a house, in rural areas for $12,000. You can buy a mobile home. You can buy a fixer-upper. You can buy an auction home and fix it up. So I take that back. That can be done. But either way, but he bought this $12,000 home at 38 and lived there for the rest of his life. He was widowed at age 50 and never remarried. A friend recalled that his main hobby was chopping firewood. Reed died in 2014, age 92. Which is when the humble rural janitor made international headlines. So look him up. 2,813,503 Americans died in 2014. Fewer than 4,000 of them had a net worth over $8 million when they passed away. Ronald Reed was one of them. This is a man who only graduated high school. This is a man who was a janitor at JCPenney's for 17 years and fixed cars for 25 years. So, just like life tells you what not to do when bad things happen to people, like there's a life learning lesson there, like don't do what they did or the same thing may happen to you. I'm telling you, you can do what Ronald Reed did. Even long ago, it can still yet be done today, right? If you would just do what he did, and we're going to get into what he did, because that is what I am currently doing, because I am Ronald Reed. We all are each other, either in the negative aspect, the positive aspect, or somewhere in between. We're alike more than we are different. We may look differently, we may speak differently, but at the end of the day, we all are living. It's all about what life you're choosing to live. So, in his will, the former janitor left $2 million to his stepkids and more than $6 million to his local hospital and library. Interesting. I will log on to social media and I will log off just to see what's going on. And normally people are talking the same thing, talking the same talk. And, I see a lot of negativity on social media as well. But even though there's some positive, but either way, here nor there, this guy left $2 million to his stepkids and $6 million to the hospital, the local hospital and library. I just read on social media today, about an hour ago, about a person, who sadly died, right? And there's a GoFundMe page set up for this person because there is no money to bury them. And they left behind kids, right? Which is unfortunate. That's why I always say, create a plan, no matter what. No, you should not take another step without creating a plan today, especially if you have a family. Why don't you have life insurance? Why aren't you not saving any money? Because things like this are going to happen. Unforeseen events are going to happen. You are going to die one day. It's all about when. There's a beginning, and let's say this book here is the in between, and then there's an end. The end is coming for us all, but are you prepared? Do you have things in place so when things like the end happen, those that you leave behind aren't left setting up GoFundMe pages? You know? I can understand people not knowing any better, but I'm telling you right now, there's so much information out there that can keep people from doing, the wrong thing if they really want to do the right thing. That's why I put information out like this, to where I no longer, I used to feel sorry for me because there was just a lot that I didn't know. No one ever told me, hey, maybe you should read a book. Even though I should think that myself. But it wasn't until I wanted to change my life is when I started trying to figure out ways in which I can improve my life. And then I found motivational speakers, and then I found, they wrote books. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's all this information out there that I never knew about. But first, I had to seek it. Seek and ye shall find. If you're just hoping and wishing your life to get better in your circumstance, but you're not putting any action behind those thoughts, it may or may not come. And then because you wasn't seeking it, if it does come, you're not going to recognize it. Right? So let's get back to this. Those who knew Reed were baffled. Where did he get all that money? It turned out there was no secret. There was no lottery win and no inheritance. Do you know there are more self-made millionaires in the United States than ever? There are more money being made and created by individual people than there are passed on to people. There are millions and billions. I think the lottery right now in the US is up to like $1 billion. Think of all that money that people, especially poor people, are putting into the lottery. But I do understand why they're doing it. I do understand. I mean, if you don't know any better, you will do things like this. It's nothing different than what we're going to read in this book, and something that I'm going to read in this book, because you have people with money that foolishly throw away their money. You have people that are making six figures and $200,000 and $300,000 a year, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. You don't believe me? Listen to Dave Ramsey's podcast, Google articles. You will have a lot of people, because it also may depend on which state you live in. So let's get back to this. It turned out there was no secret. Reed saved what little he could and invested in blue chip stocks. Now, this isn't a stock market book, but they're just telling you what Reed did. Then he waited for decades on end as tiny savings compounded, that's the thing, into more than $8 million. That compound interest, people, is no joke. And especially when these stocks pay dividends and you have that dividend payment reinvested back into the stock, buying more of the stock, so your numbers in the stock increases, and as the price increases, so does your net worth. And if you just leave that money alone, let it grow. The stock market, the S&P 500, over 100 years has brought back over 10% returns. Now, were there years where it was below 10? Yeah. There were years where it's been 15, 20%, over 20%. There are years where it's been 10%. This year it's over 25%, if I'm not mistaken. But on average for the last 100 years, right? So what if you, like Ronald Reed did, invested for years and just left the money alone and lived below your means? Ronald Reed, I guarantee you, lived a good life. He did whatever he wanted to do. And what you're going to learn when you start making money, a lot of things that you thought you want, you no longer want it because you can easily get it. Most people want what they can't have. And those of us that get it, or can get what we want, it's not that impressive anymore. It's really not. Like me, I was interested in making money, investing money. Now I'm like, I want to figure out something different. I want to own a business now, own a lucrative business. I want to buy a business, buy into a business that's being left by, some baby boomer that no longer wants it. Hell, give me a laundromat that's been operational for like 30 years. Let me buy that from someone. Have my money more diversified. But either way, so that's it. From janitor to philanthropist. A few months before Ronald Read died, another man named Richard was in the news. Richard Fuscone was everything Ronald Richard was not. Ronald Read was not. A Harvard-educated Merrill Lynch executive with an MBA. Fuscone had such a successful career in finance that he retired in his 40s to become a philanthropist. Former Merrill Lynch CEO David Komansky praised Fuscone's business savvy, leadership skills, sound judgment, and personal integrity. Crain's Business magazine once included him in a 40 under 40 list of successful business people. But then, like the gold coin skipping tech executive, everything fell apart. In the mid 2000s, Fuscone borrowed heavily to expand an 18,000 square foot home in Greenwich, Connecticut that had 11 bedrooms, 2 elevators, 2 pools, 7 garages, and cost more than $90,000 a month to maintain. And that's the type of thing that is shown to everyday Americans every day, or people around the world every day, telling you this is what you need to aspire to have. And if you don't have that, then you shouldn't be happy. Not realizing the people that's behind the camera on these reality shows, hell, they may not even own those homes. They could be renting. Who knows? But then you don't know those people. You only know what you're seeing on TV. And then all of a sudden you hear about someone being checked into like some type of facility for drug abuse or alcohol abuse, or someone's marriage is dissolving, they're splitting up. So it's like, what happened to the facade that we were shown on television? A lot of that stuff is not real, people. That's why you need to mind your business, mind your money business. Stop counting other people's pockets, right? But either way, this guy had an 11,000 square foot home. Ronald Read had a $12,000 house. Stayed there for the rest of his life. Like, what is enough? That's why you need to come up with a plan. And you need to think about this, people. You need to think. What is enough? What is your number? Just come up with a number. How much money do you think that you need? They're saying now the average American needs about $2 million to retire comfortably. And that number will more than likely go up because expenses are going up. So come up with a number and work towards that number. Okay. Then the 2008 financial crisis hit. The crisis hurt virtually everyone's finances. It apparently turned Fuscone's into dust. His debt and illiquid assets left him bankrupt. This is a guy that retired in 40. He was he retired in his 40s. He was Harvard educated. He had his MBA, and he was successful by what we consider success, right? But also think about all this. We're telling people they need to be educated. Just because you have an education from a college doesn't mean that you're the smartest person. You don't have common sense. You may have book smarts, but we're going to see what happened to Richard. Ronald Read only graduated high school. First, it says the crisis hurt. Okay, his debt to illiquid assets left him bankrupt. I currently have no income, he allegedly told a bankruptcy judge in 2008. He was retired. First, his Palm Beach house was foreclosed. He had a house in Palm Beach also. He had a house in Palm Beach that he couldn't live in. I guess he went there, certain times of the year when it was snowing in Connecticut. They foreclosed on that home. In 2014, it was the Greenwich Mansion's turn. 5 months before Ronald Read left his fortune to charity, Richard Fuscone's home, where guests recall the thrill of dining and dancing atop a see-through covering on the home's indoor swimming pool, was sold in a foreclosure auction for 75% less than an insurance company figured it was worth. Those are stories you don't hear about the rich and famous, right? Well, they only talk about certain rich people. They don't talk about rich people like Richard here. The average Americans, they only show you these actors that are in movies every year, these musicians that are on world tours, but you don't hear about. Here's the thing, think about this. If you're old enough to remember MTV Cribs, and they used to have like the actors, they would visit the actors and musicians and rappers' homes. They lived in these mansions, but if you ever notice, they lived in neighborhoods. They never lived like on 8 or 10 acres in a big mansion. They lived in a neighborhood of other mansions. I was always curious to know, who in the hell lives in a neighborhood? Who lives in those other big homes? Who are they? Who are those people? They're obviously not all actors and athletes. They probably were people like Richard Fuscone, who was an executive for Merrill Lynch, or a doctor, or a lawyer, a real estate investor, so on and so forth. So here it says, Richard Read was patient. Richard Fuscone was greedy. That's all it took to eclipse the massive education and experience gap between the two. The lesson here is not to be more like Ronald and less like Richard, though it's not bad advice. The fascinating thing about these stories is how unique they are to finance. In what other industries does someone with no college degree, no training, no background, no formal experience, and no connections massively outperform someone with the best education, the best training, and the best connection? Here's the thing, if most of you haven't realized yet, school, again, education is important, right? It's a business now. And it's costing 3 times as much to go to college as it did maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, who knows. So people are getting into more debt to get a degree. And oftentimes you get a lot of these kids and people, not just kids, but people are getting degrees and they don't even work in that field after they graduate college, right? So we need to be a lot smarter. You can educate yourself and not put yourself in a whole lot of debt by doing so. Slow and steady. Dave Ramsey says slow and steady wins the race. There's no need to rush things. When you rush things, you become greedy, like Richard Fuscone. And then one bad thing happens because you don't have a plan in place and you lose it all. So it says here, I struggle to think of any, right? It is impossible to think of a story about Ronald Read performing a heart transplant better than a Harvard-trained surgeon, or designing a skyscraper superior to the best-trained architects. There will never be a story of a janitor outperforming the world's top nuclear engineers. But these stories do happen in investing. The fact that Ronald Read can coexist with Richard Fuscone has two explanations. One, financial outcomes are driven by luck, independent of intelligence and effort. That's true to some extent. And in this book, it will detail that even further. Or two, I think more common, that financial success is not hard science. It's not hard. The reason why most people don't do it is because they're not taught. It's not talked about. I would tell you, the people with power don't want you to have control over your lives, because the less control you have, the more easily it is to manipulate you. Something bad can happen, they can spin it and make it look one way and get a whole lot of you excited, and you burn down your whole goddamn city. You know, you go out and you murder other people. You will go into churches and commit crimes. You will start being disrespectful towards other people. It's all about how the narrative is being spent. That's what I see happening, in my opinion. In my opinion. It's a soft skill where how you behave is more important than what you know. I call this soft skill the psychology of money. The aim of this is to convince you that soft skills are more important than the technical side of money. Finance is overwhelmingly taught as a math-based field where you put data into a formula and the formula tells you what to do, and it's assumed that you'll just do it. This is true in personal finance, where you're told to have a 6-month emergency fund and save 10% of your salary. Dave Ramsey says the same thing. You need an emergency fund, people, because emergencies will happen in your life. Your car can break down. You may have to go to the hospital. Your water heater may go out. Your toilet could get stopped up. A pipe burst, so on and so forth. It's true in investing, where we know the exact historical corrections between interest rates and valuation. And it's true in corporate finance, where CFOs, those are chief financial officers, can measure the precise cost of capital. It's not that any of these things are bad or wrong. It's that knowing what to do tells you nothing about what happens in your head when you try to do it. That's the key. Knowing what to do is one thing. Doing it is another. Doing it is another. Two topics impact everyone, where you are interested in them or not: health and money. The healthcare industry is a triumph of modern science, with rising life expectancy across the world. Scientific discoveries have replaced doctors' old ideas about how the human body works, and virtually everyone is healthier because of it. I see it all the time. I see people posting things on social media. That's what I'm drinking right now. I'm drinking coffee with lemon in it. It keeps you from feeling bloated. I now put cinnamon. I don't drink regular milk, but I heat up almond milk, a cup of almond milk. I put cinnamon in it, mix it up, and I put lemon, not lemon, but honey. It helps with inflammation. There's a lot of information out there, people, when it comes to your health and money. And people are tapping into it. So the money industry, investing, personal finance, business planning is another story. Finance has scooped up the smartest minds coming from top universities over the last 2 decades. They use, what people don't understand, they use your educated mind to make companies more money. But they don't make those educators, or the people that are making the money, they don't make them smart on money. Just like the guy, Richard, he lost everything. So financial engineers was the most popular major in Princeton's School of Engineering a decade ago. Is there any evidence it has made us better investors? I have seen none. Through collective trial and error over the years, we learned how to become better farmers, skilled plumbers, and advanced chemists. But has trial and error taught us to become better with our personal finances? How can you have meetings in your company on what's working for the company, what things need to be let go of, and steps and processes can be cut? You can do that at work, but you don't do that at home. Why aren't you trying to figure out why you're not saving any money? Why don't you have any money invested? Think, people, think. We think for companies and businesses, but we don't think for ourselves. Most oftentimes because we're tired after we get home. Are we less likely to bury ourselves in debt? More likely to save for a rainy day? Prepare for a retirement? I would say less people, more people are getting in debt. They're not saving for a rainy day, and they're not prepared for retirement. That's why you have people over the age of 60 and 70 still working, because they cannot afford to retire. So have realistic views about what money does and doesn't do to our happiness. We're thinking we need money to be happy. If you're sad and broke, you're going to be sad when you win the lottery, because your emotions and your feelings are separate from money. And you are going to quickly learn that money is not going to make you happy. And you can possibly spend all of your money trying to buy things in hopes that you will be happy, only to be sad and broke again, because now you spent all your money, or you've given it away. Right? Most of the reason why I believe is that we think about and are taught about money in ways that are too much like physics with rules and laws, and not enough like psychology with emotions and nuance. That's true. We make people think investing, more often than not, is harder than what it is, and when it's quite simple and easy. We make people think, and we tell poor people, especially poor religious people, that money is the root of all evil. It's not money is the root of all evil. It's the love of money. I would say Richard Foucault's way of thinking about money and his greed is what led to his demise. And he had money. It was his love of it, his greed for it, his doing too much, him having a home on different coasts when he can only live in one at a time. Right? So, and I would say, people being taught that money is the root of all evil makes them not want to have it. So you keep repelling away the thing that you really need in life because of your thoughts about it. But you still have to pay your tithes. You can hate it. It can be evil, but you need to pay your tithes. Okay. And that to me is as fascinating as fascinating as it is important. Money is everywhere. It affects us all, and it focuses mostly on us. Everyone thinks about it a little differently. It offers lessons on things that apply to many areas of life, like risk, confidence, and happiness. And I will tell you, you can't make money without taking or assuming some type of risk. And it's okay. Investing is, I'm taking risks. I could lose all of my money in the stock market. It's a risk. That's why I create a plan. Not all of my money and not all of my assets are in stocks. I have an emergency fund. I have no debt. So if I lose everything in the stock market, I am still okay. I still have rental property that's paid off, that's paying me. I still have a job that's paying me. I still have an emergency fund. I'm still good. So, few topics offer more powerful magnifying offer a more powerful magnifying glass that helps explain why people behave the way they do than money. It is one of the greatest shows on earth. My own appreciation for the psychology of money is shaped by more than a decade of writing on this topic. This person began writing about finance in 2008. It was the dawn of the financial crisis and the worst recession in 80 years. I was in Afghanistan at the time. To write about what was happening, he had to figure out what was happening. But the first thing he learned after the financial crisis was that no one could accurately explain what happened or why it happened, let alone what should be done about it. For every good explanation, there was an equally convincing rebuttal. Engineers can determine the cause of a bridge collapse because there's agreement that if a certain amount of force is applied to a certain area, that area will break. Physics isn't controversial. It's guided by laws. Finance is different. It's guided by people's behavior. And how I behave might make sense to me, but look crazy to you. Like how I behave. Like I don't have a shirt on. I don't care. It's hot. It might look crazy to you. Like, why is this guy on video with no shirt on? It may look crazy to you, but I'm okay with it. It might look crazy to you that I have no bills, that I make a lot of money, and I live below my means. That might look crazy to you, but it makes sense to me. Right? The more this guy studied and wrote about the financial crisis, the more he realized that you could understand it better through the lenses of psychology and history, not finance. And that's what people haven't realized. All of this stuff is psychological. The fact that you're in debt, the fact that you don't have nothing, is more psychological. It's not about whether or not you're smart. It's not about whether you are college educated or not. It's psychology. Who controls this? Everyone is vying and trying to get control of your mind, whether it be another person, whether it's the commercials, whether it be colleges. And our mind is the one thing that we have, or we should have control over, but we don't. And because we don't, we can't control our behaviors and our actions. We keep doing things that are detrimental to our health and our finances. But let's stick to the money. You keep getting into more and more debt. You're going to college for a degree that you don't even really want. You don't even have any passion behind it. You're just not making smart decisions. You're doing what everyone else is doing. You're trying to live like the Joneses. I think that's the saying, right? You're trying to impress people who aren't paying your bills. You're living above your means. Your behavior is out of control. That's why the love of money is the root of all behavior, is the root of all evil. Your love of it, your behavior with it. Money is just a thing. It's not real. I mean, it's a piece of paper and it's coins, right? It's the value that we place on it. It's how we use it that can be evil. That's how I look at it. It's the psychology of it. There's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong. I used to feel bad about having money, and there were so many people that did. Now I don't. It's psychological. It's psychological. To grasp why people bury themselves in debt, you don't need to study interest rates. You need to study the history of greed, insecurity, and optimism. Look at the hundreds and thousands of dollars people spend on lottery tickets and don't win, but they keep playing it, or they're playing these scratch-offs. The history of greed, insecurity, and optimism. And that may be the reason why, well, no, I'm not going to say that. Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Okay, to get why investors sell out at the bottom of a bear market, that means a bear market is when the market's going down. They sell out. You don't need to study the math of expected future returns. You need to think about the agony of looking at your family and wondering if your investments are imperiling their future. If you want to sell because you don't want to, you may sell because you don't want to lose all your money because you're worried about your family. I love Voltaire's observation that history never repeats itself. Man always does. Oh, I used to say that a lot too. History always repeats. No, history doesn't. Man does. Yeah, that's true. Man keeps repeating things. Man, woman, we adults, we keep repeating the same thing. Even though it may be a different time, but we keep doing the same thing. And if you keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. So a lot of us, yeah, maybe. I love Voltaire's observation that history never repeats itself. Man always does. It applies so well to how we behave with money. In 2018, this guy wrote a report outlining 20 of the most important flaws, biases, and causes of bad behavior he's seen affect people when dealing with money. It was called The Psychology of Money. And over 1 million people have read it. That was back in 2018, right? The book is a deeper dive into the topic. Wow. This is actually pretty good. Like I said, the book is a deeper dive into the topic. Some short passages from the report appear unaltered in the book. And so that is some of the information, not some of, that is the information that I'm going to start sharing with you guys because you need to hear it. Again, it's a psychology, people. Like I've said, in the future, well, not in the future, in the past, things were done to people physically, and still yet to this day, some things are done to people or a large amount of people physically, but it's mostly psychological than anything. It's more psychology than it is physical. If you can make people hate one another, you can keep them divided, eventually something physical is going to happen. Or you can justify doing something physical to a person or people when you put out a certain narrative about them that justifies the action that was taken, rather, especially if it was bad. It's genius. It is genius. But I mean, it is what it is. And the thing is not everyone is going to wake up and realize this game of life and how it's being played. So the ones that see these videos are the ones that are seeking answers, not to the problems of the world, but seeking answers, to help themselves. Those are the ones that are going to see this video. Yeah. Those are the ones that are going to eventually do better and start to see things differently. You're going to start to discover more things. You're going to start to read more books, and just see the world differently. And I mean, you can do what you can to help people, but don't try to be a martyr. Don't offer yourself up for sacrifice to some people that are not going to change, who will never change. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that with you guys. I don't know what I'm going to title this article yet, or this video. Maybe I'll call it, I don't know, I'll figure it out. But yeah, But either way, like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Let me know what you think. If you think anything at all, you know, again, I'm trying to get you guys to think. And like this book, it's just one book of millions of books out there, right? But it talks about how things are psychological when it comes to money. And it's all about your behavior with it. It's not that you don't make enough. In America, I'm telling you, people, I'm telling you, there's a reason why immigration is a topic of discussion in the United States government and on the news. People are trying to get in America because America is the only place where you can make as much money as Americans do. And right now, you got people fighting each other, thinking that like there's some type of inequality, that it sucks, and that you're trying to burn that mother sucker down. Trust me, you haven't traveled the world. Most Americans haven't left America yet. Most Americans have not traveled to third world countries and see how sad it is, how some people live and families. Like poor, to me, in my mind, poor in America is not poor in a lot of other countries. You have people that are living on dirt floors who have no running water, no electricity, no television, no Wi-Fi, no coffee shops like every block, no McDonald's, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to end this video. Yeah, again, like, comment, subscribe, share this video. Let me know what you think if you think anything at all. Oh, disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I pretending to be one. I'm just someone on YouTube putting out information and giving my opinion. So please consult with a financial advisor before you invest any of your money if you're not comfortable doing so. So yeah, all right, so you guys take care, peace, and continue to grow and mind your money business. All right, you guys, peace.